Hello and welcome back to Fresh BCSC Tech. In this initial video, I'm going to go over a crash course on how to use the interactive presentation tool PearDeck. And then I'm going to go into some tips from a BCSC teacher and how this teacher has been using PearDeck really creatively and effectively with his students during extended emergency e-learning to keep students engaged, motivated, and as a way to check in with them to meet their social emotional learning needs. So PearDeck, if you haven't used it before, is a formative assessment tool that changes your static slideshow presentations into active learning experiences by allowing you to incorporate reflection questions, check-ins, bell ringers, and checks for understanding, all with a couple of clicks within the presentation itself. What's also great is that there's a whole library of already made questions there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can insert them pretty easily. A couple clicks is all it takes. Plus, it gives you real-time data, and you can have all your results populated in Google Drive files or into spreadsheets afterwards. You can analyze students' understanding and see who you need to check base with afterwards. So there's more information here on the UDL benefits, and the teacher I interview, Austin, will share some of those as well. I'm just going to give you some tips here on getting started with PearDeck. You can use PearDeck with Google Slides or with Microsoft PowerPoint online. It's up to you. I prefer to use the Google Slides version mainly because it's not another password that I have to remember. And that's because you can sign in and create a free teacher account at peardeck.com with teacher login. Use your BCSC Google account. And we do have premium access right now that is on a document I shared out that has free tools and how we're getting the paid versions of those tools for free. So here are basically the view of my teacher dashboard, but that's just the first thing is creating your teacher account. The thing you need to do next is add it. So it is an add-on within Google Slides, which basically means it is a separate app that runs within Google Slides and plays nicely with it. So the way that you add PearDeck as an add-on is if you go to the add-ons menu, get add-ons. Because it is so popular, it is one of the first ones that pops up. You would install it. After you have installed it, you can open it through this add-ons menu, PearDeck for Google Slides, and it opens a toolbar over here at the right, which I'm going to move my little window here so you can see it. And this is where the PearDeck magic happens. This is the toolbar for PearDeck over here. So to add a PearDeck question or to browse the sample questions they have there, if you go to the template library, has all the different questions you like, and they organize it by beginning, middle, end of a lesson, critical thinking, social emotional learning, subject area. There are tons of questions there, and you have the ability to type your own questions and insert ones that you've made. So for sake of this example, I'm just going to use a pre-made one. So what I did was I selected one of these topics and just clicked it to add it into the slide. Whenever I finish doing that and I'm ready to start my PearDeck learning session, I'll do start session. And I have choices. I have a student-paced session, which is really great for remote learning. It's anytime, anywhere the student can complete it. Or there's a live version, which would be good for maybe a video conference call, and you're having students go through this with you. So you have some choices. For this example, I'm going to do both. I'm going to show you the student-paced activity. So if it is a student-paced activity, I'm going to get a prompt here when it finishes loading, and it's going to show me a link that I'll share with my students, which is this next screen. So I can copy this link, put it in my eLearning course, and that's how students can participate in this presentation. And what it does is it allows them to have opportunities to answer reflection questions and check in as they go through my slides. As students answer, I'll see their responses here. I can sort it by time and student. I can show students' responses to each other here. If I click this, students can see other classmates' answers from their class. And I have options here to turn off student pace mode, so it's a live version instead, to end this session. If I end it, students can't respond anymore. If I leave, it keeps the session going, but I'm not in this window anymore. Whenever I am ready to end the session, I always recommend that you name it first for easy reference first. If I want to end it, ends the session. When I publish student takeaways, it gives me a Google Drive folder with all of my students' responses. Now, if you set this up initially, it will just leave it as anonymous responses. But when I'm first setting up my PearDeck here in my menu, I can toggle if I want students to use a name before they sign in and start participating. So it can either use their Google account, their BCSC Google, or they can type in their own name so that when I get my report, it actually shows the students' names. But I click save and in session. That's how I get my report. If I were to do a live session instead of this student-paced one for remote learning, when I start the session, I will click instructor paste. And the beauty of this is that students can participate on anything that they have a web browser. So you have students who want to use a cell phone, they can use a cell phone. They will get a join code, kind of similar to the student pace one. But this one is all live. So you as the teacher have control over what screen the students are on, if they can see each other's options and their responses. So you can't start a live session until you have students who've joined. So I just joined on my phone and I'll click start class. And if you notice here, you have control. So on my student phone screen right now, I see the same thing. I cannot move forward until the teacher has, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna move this up here so you can see. The join code stays up there for a student who maybe joins late. I'm on a PearDeck screen right now, so I'm gonna type something. All right, so I have a response here submitted on my screen. I'm on teacher view. If I want to show students' answers to each other, show responses. Now students can see my wonderful response there. If I do lock screen, then as a student here, I see notification, I cannot move on to other slides until my teacher has allowed me to move on. So locking their screens stops your students from jumping ahead of where you want them to be. Same thing with this version. I can end my session and get my results there in a Google Drive file. And I need to make sure I name it as well. If I ever want to get back to any of my sessions, if I go back to peardeck.com, I can view any and all of my sessions there to see my results or start a new one from that dashboard. So now moving on to some tips from a BCSC teacher, and I hope you take some of these tips and have fun with PearDeck as well.